During the Gulf War, the U.S. bombed Iraqi power plants, and this document reviews some of the effects. Quote, damage against Iraqi power plants was fairly widespread. It does appear that more damage was done than had originally been intended. What they intended was shutting down Iraqi electric power plants and then ensuring that they could not resume operations. Still, more damage was probably inflicted on this target system, meaning power plants, than was absolutely necessary from an engineering standpoint to achieve the desired effects, shutting down their power. Unfortunate and unintended as this additional damage may have been, the question at issue concerns post-war charges of coalition responsibility for what was estimated to be tens of thousands of additional deaths among Iraqi civilians due to the lack of electricity for water and sewage treatment after the ceasefire. What they're referring to is if you blow up power plants, you don't have electricity for water treatment or sewage or hospitals or transportation, and then the population will be less healthy and more people will die. So this paper tries to figure out excess deaths in Iraq after the Gulf War. Deaths from things like gastrointestinal diseases and respiratory infections because your water is dirty, you don't have sewage or hospitals, and so on. The paper concludes there are 110,000 excess deaths attributable to post-war adverse health effects, mostly children, about 74,000 children. And this plot is showing you the excess deaths by age range. You can see most of the excess deaths are coming from children 0 to 1 years old. My guess is that those children are most vulnerable to the diseases from dirty water, no hospitals, and so on. So that's what the Gulf War survey is referring to when they say we blew up the power plants and that caused tens of thousands of additional deaths among Iraqi civilians. But they're going to go on to say we're not responsible for this. Regarding this question, the essential point to be made is that war is not an engineering enterprise whose results can be calculated in advance. Faulting the air commanders and planners who ran this portion of the air campaign for overkill not only ignores this essential point, but in addition demands of them an impossible degree of predictive foresight regarding the second order or unintended consequences of military operations. Basically, they're saying we blew up their power plants, that resulted in tens of thousands of deaths, 74,000 children dying, but we're not responsible because we couldn't have known that would happen. Regardless of if you find the defense of, oh, you guys needed electricity, we're just air commanders, we're just military commanders, we didn't know that. Regardless of if you find that defense compelling or not, that is a defense that our current military commanders and our commander-in-chief do not have, because we know that destroying power plants will result in civilian deaths. Donald Trump says Tuesday will be power plant day. They're going to destroy power plants, causing the Iranians to be living in hell. Trump says that a whole civilization will die tonight, perhaps meaning that Trump is going to order the attack on power plants and bridges tonight. Iraq's population in 1991 was about 18 million. Iran's population today is about 5 times bigger. So if the loss of life is just proportional, we'd be talking about 500,000 civilians dead as a consequence of destroying power plants, most of which would be children. Or it might be worse than that, depending on how severe Trump's attacks are. So if Trump does follow through with his threats tonight, and I hope he won't, but if he does do what he says he will, then I think it's important to keep in mind that Iran will need humanitarian support in the form of clean drinking water, medical supplies, and so on, in addition to sanctions relief so that they can get the supplies they need to rebuild their country from whatever damage Trump might inflict on it. Finally, while reading this, I was thinking of Stalin's comment that a single death is a tragedy, but 1 million is only a statistic. Meaning, if you had to imagine your child dying of dysentery because the water treatment facility didn't work because there was no power, that would be a tragedy that's beyond words. It's horrible to even contemplate. And if you were to take that and multiply by 74,000, you can't even imagine the evil or the harm that that represents. And yet that is exactly what Trump proposes to do and what he seeks to do, what he claims he will do tonight. I hope not. Thanks for your time.